Properties. How about now? Can you hear me now? I think that fixed it. I hope that fixed it. I don't know why. But my mic, yeah, you can hear now, but my mic seems to disconnect from the system from time to time, and it kind of makes me a little upset. But that's okay. We're not going to dwell on that. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the studio, where tonight we're going to paint. I've got a few drawn out here, a few acorns and leaves. I've got my reference photo over there. I've changed mine ever so slightly. Not one to be beholden to the picture exactly. Tonight I'm going to try something a little bit new, and that is I'm going to use a credit card. I'm going to buy a new painting for everybody. No. I've got a chip of a credit card here, one that I've cut up a long time ago. I won't try and steal my numbers. And I'm going to use it to make some of the veins into leaves with, and we'll see how that goes. I've tried it in the past to varying success. But I think it's kind of a fun thing to do, and we're going to give it a try tonight. Let's see what else. It's been a long time since we've been here together. I missed last week, and I apologize for that. Miss Penny passed away, and it was horrible. But we're past that now. Today I'm feeling a little under the weather. So if my speech gets wonky, it's because my head isn't completely clear, and I don't know, that's about it. It's a wonderful day in the part of the country where I am at. I hope it's just as wonderful wherever you are at. I love these autumn days. I say that realizing that some places in the country are already getting snow, and I'm definitely not. Might be getting some cool days, some cold nights. That's about it. Certainly nothing approaching any kind of snow. So I do want to be a little cognizant of the fact that others are experiencing some winter time conditions already, but it's not me, at least not yet. Let's see, Sudike, you got 47 and rain outside of Chicago. That's perfect. Football temperature. My Ohio State Buckeyes will be there on Saturday outside of Chicago playing a little football. So I hope you, everybody in the area there, treats them well. Susie says it's finally getting colder for her. I have to say, I got up in the morning on Saturday and Sunday and went to do a little bit of fishing at the lake that I normally go up to, just up the coast from here. And I got out of the car. I checked the temperature in the car. I got out of the car. It was 37 degrees, which is chilly for here, quite chilly for here. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I've got a number of leaves on here. I'm going to pre-wet a few of these and put in a base coat of color on them, and then we're going to come back with another coat. We'll darken it, and that's when we'll put in our veins and whatnot. But I just want to get some color on here first of all. Not for the least of which reason is that I want you all to see what's here rather than a blank piece of paper with a few lines on it. So I always think getting some quick color on here helps you all out a little bit more. And I want to put my color in kind of a specific way, right? If you look at leaves as they start to turn colors, right, you get a little bit of gray, oh my lord, you get some green and some gold in the center of them. As you work out a little bit further, you get some oranges and then some brighter yellows and some reds. And so I just want to kind of keep with that motif and layer my color on that way. And if it's going to run, it's going to run. And let's let it all come together and get really nice and happy. And if it goes over the top of one area, that's fine. It's kind of how nature does it. The colors just kind of run together. All right, there's our second one already. And you can see it's just a basic shape of that leaf there. In fact, you know what? I'm going to make this come out a little further, something like that. Looked okay when I had it drawn. I don't think it's quite what I want. There we are, something like that on that side, and this side not quite the same, and that's okay. It really does look lopsided, but that's all right. Let's see. Let's see. Hi, Sadiq. I hope you're well. I hope that doesn't have anything to do with Sadiq falling, hurting a back while dancing to the opening music. Let's see, doing fine, thanks. Susie says, thanks for asking. Just okay, having a rough week. Hopefully it will pass. It will. I'm certain it will. The good thing about having rough weeks is that I tell this all the time to my team at work, and I try to live it when I have a rough day. So if you didn't have rough days, you wouldn't have good days. So even though some days are a little rough, let's not be too disheartened by those rough days. Let's accept the rough days and acknowledge that if you didn't have a bad day, you wouldn't know what a good day was. So it's kind of two sides of one coin. Yes, I get a little flack for looking at things with kind of a Pollyanna viewpoint. Not necessarily overly optimistic, just maybe a little wide-eyed and whatnot, but that's okay. I'll totally accept that. But it's true. If you only had good days, you wouldn't know what a good day was. And so let's accept that there are some days that are maybe a little better for us and a little that aren't maybe quite as good, and we'll take that and move on, accepting that for every, maybe not quite as nice a day that we have, we're going to have another one that is quite nice, and it will help us appreciate it just that little bit more. Okay, so while I'm doing this, not that I want to be a walking commercial or anything like that, but I do want to say I am using one of these golden maple quill mop brushes, and I actually do rather like these brushes. I wouldn't normally say this, not that I wouldn't say that I like the brush, but I wouldn't necessarily say too much about it, but I did get poked by the company and said, hey, you haven't had a whole lot of sales on the brushes. Nobody's really used the link that we provided for you. And I went, well, okay, I'm sorry about that. But if you see me using these and you like these, you like the look of them, and you see what I'm doing with it, you like the performance of them, down below, anybody who's watching now or anybody who's watching in replay later, down below, there is a link to how you can get these, and there's a code down there. You can get 10% off of them on Amazon. So I'll just put that out there, and then I'm just going to go back to my painting now. Let's see. Sudika says, nah, sorry to hear that. Keep you in her prayers, which is very nice. Prayers are awesome. Positive thoughts, too, are always appreciated. While I'm reading through some of these, I'm going to be painting these acorns. Now, we all know leaves have all these different colors in them, right? And we often think of acorns, or I do. I shouldn't say we all do. I do. I think of acorns as just kind of either a brown thing, or if they're, if it's the middle of the season or something like that, they're green. But I want to, and you can kind of see it, the one that's in there really has a nice golden-y color to it. So I'm gonna put on a layer of this yellow ochre, and we're gonna start with this lighter golden brown color, and then later on, as we're adding some dimension to this, if we want to make this darker color, we want to add some more brown to it, we'll do it during that second layer or third layer. But I want to start with our base coat here and make it nice and light. And when it comes down to it, right, that's part of the cool thing about watercolors, is that we start with one color. We might not end with that color, but it's going to influence all of the layers on top, all of the colors that go on top. You know what else I like about this painting? I can turn this any way I want, and it's not upside down when you guys look at it. You can see that and see it's a general shape of that, and that it started this way. But if I were to turn it this way or this way, you wouldn't have any idea if it were upside down or right side up or anything. So I like that. I do sometimes feel badly that I turn my page a lot, and probably is a little disorienting, let's say, to be nice for some folks. Let's see. Sudike says, excuse me. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I got a set of colored pencils. Blick's store brand, and you're having fun with it, which is fantastic. Dick Blick colored pencils. That's cool. I like that. I'm so tacky. Maybe I'll ask my sisters to chip in and buy me some of these brushes. Look, I'm not asking anybody to go out and buy them if you don't want to get them or you can't afford them or anything like that. I'm not concerned about it, but I do want to mention it because part of my deal was they send me this, I review it, I use it, and then they offer a discount to everybody. But there's not. Please don't think there's any pressure on there. There's no pressure. Let's see. Good. I never feel like using pencil, Susie says, but the results can be so satisfying. Color pencils really can have some amazing end to them. Mostly, I've to playing around with using them on top of watercolor, which is cool. It can really enhance some of the areas. It's not tacky unless your sister are great at choosing gifts. Most people have no idea what to buy others. I use my pencils on watercolors too. I don't use watercolor pencils, and I always think maybe I should. Okay, what am I doing? Wet. That's still wet. What I'm doing is I'm stalling until I can get in and do a little bit more painting. I think I can get in and do some on the back side here. And I'm going to do this as one piece. And I'm going to add just a touch more of the green on here. Maybe not quite that much. That's okay. I got some on my brush. Come on, get off of there. All right. I just want to be cognizant that the color underneath is distinctly different than the color on the top. The only thing I'm really worried about here, and in order to do that, I'm just going to use more of this ochre-y color underneath there. There we go, and I got just a touch of it to do on the outside. Natalie is here. Hello, Natalie. Let's see, that leaf comes here. I got all these angles drawn on here, and nothing to tell me which bit goes with which bit. So I've got all of these arcs. I do worry about messing them up just ever so slightly, which I've totally done before. I actually hope and don't hope that everybody else has done the same thing too, because it's a great learning experience. If you've not paid all that much attention to something you're painting and you just bludgeon on through and put some color down, and then 3, 4, 5 minutes later realize, uh-oh, I did that completely wrong. I should have painted the other bit instead of the bit I did paint. And again, I don't want that to happen to anybody, but it is a great learning experience, and not because you learn a little bit more of how to read your drawing, especially if you've let it set for a little while like I've done with this one, but because it teaches you a little bit on how to recover from mistakes. Let's see, Suduke says, I've never seen the Hunger Games either. That's okay. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to think who even wrote it. Susan Collins, I believe, wrote The Hunger Games, and I don't even know when she wrote it. It's totally fine with me if you haven't read it or seen it. I saw the first one on TV. I didn't even see it in a theater or anything like that. And like I do with most with most movies that I think are at least mildly interesting, I run right out and grab the book. In this case, I rented the book. I think I read the first one in paperback and then listened to all of them several times on audiobook. They're pretty good. If you know, it's a political book is really what it is. It's not really about the games themselves. The games are just where everything else takes place, but if it's not your kind of thing, I totally understand that. I really didn't think it was going to be my kind of thing, but it turned out to be pretty nice. All right, now moving on to this larger leaf. I think I can get away with this with these acorns over here drying up slightly. And again, I'm going to put some water down, and we're going to do this a little bit wet on wet. Or we're going to attempt it anyways, to do a little bit of wet on wet here. I'm not sure if I mentioned, this is an old piece of that Arches watercolor paper that my wife found at a garage sale or a thrift store. I think she found it at a garage sale. I don't recall. She's so sneaky like that. And then it was a large sheet, and I cut it up into these smaller pieces because I don't often paint really large pieces. I've got a few that are, I don't know, 12 by 16 or some such thing, but most of mine are on a standard 9 by 12 piece of paper, and so I cut them down to roughly that size and had some extra bits left over, which this is one. All right, there we go. And again, I'm going to drop in some of this ochre-y color. And if you're saying, isn't that a bit strong? The answer is yes, it is. But let's remember that when you add paint to wetted paper, I don't know if that makes me sound smart or not. When you add paint to paper that has been pre-wetted, it is always going to dry slightly lighter than if you put it on dry paper. So yes, there is a lot of color here, but I'm hoping it's going to dry a little bit lighter. And a little bit of this red, and the red that I'm using for this right now is Maroon Perylene. If I didn't mention it, I'm trying to think, and maybe I didn't. These are my M-gram paints, which I love very much. I think they are fantastic. Buttery smooth, coming off of your brush. They wet quickly and easily. They re-wet consistently. Just a lovely, lovely paint, and not too granular. Most of them are not all that granular, which works for me. I don't do a whole lot of granular paintings anyways. Let's see. What else do we need to talk about? Uh-oh. Doesn't matter. You guys are all talking away. Let's see. I found a YouTube channel that publishes audio recordings of short stories by Somerset Maugham. I love to listen while I'm practicing my sketching. Somerset Maugham. I don't know who Somerset Maugham is. But that's cool. Ooh, look at that big, beautiful leaf there. I think that looks really nice. I think that looks really nice. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful leaf. Let's get a little bit red on there. While it's still wet and we can move it around a little bit. Gonna even that out. Give it a little point there. Ooh, that one's stunning. I like that one. Yeah, Natalie, you're liking the colors on this leaf too. They're popping, they're bursting out of there. Really like that. Okay, so here was my plan. Okay, let me pull this reference photo up. I hope it'll fit in screen, and I'm gonna have to try to describe. I'm gonna describe this twice to you, so you understand what I'm talking about. So when you look at that photo, when I put it up here and it's bigger, look at the, and I know we've all seen oak leaves. But I want to take a moment to reflect on them so we understand what we're looking at. So the stem and the main vein here down the center of each. When you look at it in that picture, look at it because it's lighter, maybe not lighter, it's a different color, I think is the best way to say it, than the surrounding area. Okay? Different color than the surrounding area. But the little, I'm going to call them little tributary veins, are different. They're so small, they're darker, right? So I'm going to paint, I'm going to not paint this main vein that comes down the middle, and then I'm going to put the little veins in, if I could pick it up, with my little credit card scraper tool, right? So let's look at this. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. There it is. I can find it somewhere. And you can see that main vein area, right? Okay, so it's not necessarily the color of everything else, but it's definitely distinct from everything else. And then to me, those other veins look a little darker. And so anyways, maybe that's not exactly how it looks, but that's how I'm going to paint it. And if I come back to my broadcast, there we are. And let me get all of my, there we go, everything's set back up. So, oh, Michelle Mills is here. Hello, hello. Mon was a British writer. He wrote of human bondage sometime between 1915 and 1920. His books are classics. The Razor's Edge, The Painted Veil. Okay, I know those names. Okay, so I'm going to jump back up to this leaf back up here, and we're going to give this a try. And I'm going to have to do this half and half. And so I'm going to start with this half. So here we go. And I'm well aware that nothing that I'm going to paint is going to match that reference photo, and I'm totally fine with that. You guys all know that has never bothered me. So there is half of that initial vein on there, and I'm going to do this. This is more of a little wet and dry, right? I'm going to put some, this is burnt umber, maybe some brown tips on a couple of these, maybe all of these. There we go. Then let's get into our maroon and pull that color back in. I want these all to be nice and play together. Come on. Get some nice, vibrant colors in here. Have no idea if these are the colors of any kind of an oak leaf or not, but they're going to be in mine. Oh, and Tracy is here. Hello. Tracy, I was lucky enough. Liza and I were lucky enough to see Tracy doing a bit of a live drawing. It was phenomenal. All right, and here I go. So here's where I really have to breathe. Whoo, here we go. I want to I know somebody's going to tell me, oh, I've seen Lindsay do this a million times. And she's great at it. And she probably is. And if I want to do some little finer ones, I got the other side of this, which has a really fine point. Maybe you can see it there a little bit better. This one I've rounded over a little bit. How about if I do this? That one I've rounded over a little bit, so I can do a little bit wider ones. And that one I've got a nice sharp point on it, so I can do some wider ones and thinner ones. How's that look? It doesn't look too bad. So I want to see, I'm really curious what that's going to look like when it dries. But we've got a whole nother side to do here. And I'm just going to leave a sliver of paint in there. Oh, come on, colors. Don't run together on me. And this is kind of how I want to do these leaves. Okay. Ooh, I like the color on that. So now as it's starting to dry a little bit and that color is actually falling in, it's seeping into the grooves that I just made with this tool. You can see it starting to darken up, and you kind of see the method of my madness a little bit, maybe. Maybe. Let's see, Susie, did you ever see the updated movie versions of Painted Veil with Norton? Really good. Oh, no, I've never seen it. I'm not a big movie person, so I certainly haven't seen that. Is the Mary Scott, is this live or Memorex? I don't remember that commercial. Oh, I remember that commercial. I have. In fact, the Memorex guy, here's something that's amazing. The Memorex guy that was in that commercial, if you remember, or one of those commercials, he's sitting in a chair like this, and there's a giant speaker on there, and they put a tape in, and it blasts him out. And it looks like the wind is blowing through his hair from the sound coming out of the speaker. That was an image taken from a famous photograph. And I have no idea who did the photograph. But that's not the important part of the story. The important part of the story is my wife knows who did that photograph. And she bought a print of it at a thrift store. And she brought it home. And I was like, hey, it's the Memorex guy. And she's like, yeah. This is a famous print. And this is worth like, I don't know, $800 or whatever. And I was like, wow, I don't know how much it was worth. More than I would have guessed, but... so I have a picture of that Memorex guy in my house now. Sneaky says, if I say I remember the commercial, I'll date myself. I'll say I remember the commercial, which I do. Obviously I do, because I just talked about it. All right, I'm going to try this leaf the same way. I have to do a half and a half. And I don't care how I've got this drawn or written on here or whatever my line. What I don't want to do is to leave this vein. I don't know what you call that. I guess it's a vein, right? I don't want to leave that just straight. So I want to put that little bit of a curve in it. Let's see, this, I think if we got a little bit more yellow in there, that would pop that color just a little bit more. And then some nice red and some orange in here, maybe. Come on, orange, come on out of there. Now, lucky for me, there's no right and no wrong on these leaves, right? It's whatever it turns out to be. So one of the cool things about nature is that it comes out a million different ways, and it's always right. I think that one looks pretty cool. Should come to a little point right there. I like that. I like the way that looks. And before I get too carried away, I've got to now decide how I want this to look. Scratch in a few little ones and wait a minute for the magic to start. Let's see. This is leaves look amazing. Cool way to make dark leaf veins, right? That photo of the guy in the chair is blown away. There you go. So somebody else knows it. Not just my wife, which she knows a lot of artsy stuff. Way more than I do. Way more than I do. I'm just a guy who pretends to be an artist on YouTube. All right, so get this vein coming down, hopefully getting a little thinner and a little thinner each go around, or each, as it progresses down the spine of the leaf here. Get some beautiful oranges in here. I love that Gamboge. One of my favorite colors. Drop a little bit of brown, a little bit of brown. Maybe there's a little bit more brown over here. We'll go into a little bit of this red. So we do have to, while we're all here, we do have to talk about an upcoming schedule for these Wednesdays, because I'm hoping to be able to do this for 2 more weeks in November, but I do have relatives coming into town which will impact me. So we can do one of 2 things. We can still do it and hope that my family that comes into town doesn't want to be on the show with me. Or call them off. I don't know which would be better or worse. Michael, you're not pretending to be an artist. You're an artist. Making art is all is required. Oh, well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I have fun with it. I enjoy it. I'm glad you guys enjoy me enjoying it. I think we can enjoy quite a bit of this together. Let's see. We got 17 people in here now. That's a good number. So we must have a few new people in here, if you don't mind. Would love to be able to say hello, maybe address you by name if you're willing. Give a shout out, say hello. Let us all know who you are, where you're from. We're a pretty friendly bunch here. I just said that and my numbers dropped. We like to get along and have a good time. Here, I think everybody is pretty friendly. And would like to welcome you to the channel. A lot of the people that if you're just picking this up and you're here for the first time, a lot of people that you're seeing chatting away are returning people that are here all the time, and I love talking to them, but I like meeting new people too. So if you're willing, drop a line in chat, say hello. Would love to meet some new people. Let's see, let's get some of this beautiful oranges and yellows in here, mix them in as long as we're working in a small area and our paint is still wet. There's almost nothing we can't do here. Just want this paint to mix and be happy and have a good old time here. Look at that leaf. Wow, look at that leaf. That's fantastic. Kenya me or Kenya May, just found you. Kenya from Detroit. Oh, welcome from Detroit. I got lots of relatives in Detroit. Lots of relatives in Detroit. I've been there many times. I very much like Detroit. I don't like it enough to live there, I'm sorry. But Kenya, welcome. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I'll just say, I say this a lot. If you have any questions about anything I'm doing, Kenya, if you have any questions about the art, the image, have any questions about me, my art style, throw them out there. Whoops, I bumped the microphone. I'm happy to answer any questions for you. If you're an experienced watercolor artist and somebody throws a question out, feel free to respond and put an answer out there. Don't be shy about that at all. If you are newer to watercolor painting and you have a question about it, throw that out there too. Like I said, many of us here have been together for quite a while. And we've talked about, actually, where's Liza? Liza's the one always asking questions about paint and brushes and that sorts of things. She's typically here to ask all of those questions. Okay, that's okay that she's not. But I love answering questions about art, specifically my art. But if I know anything about somebody else's art, I'm happy to answer that. If you've got your own YouTube channel and you want to promote it, I will allow that. I love to see creativity. It's fun to see it and foster that. The only thing that I ask from you is and this is gonna this is gonna date me, is oh, and I forget the quote now, is like Bill and Ted is be awesome to each other. If you grew up in the 80s like me, the 70s and 80s, and you watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they would say be awesome to each other. I don't think I have enough yellow in here. Let's put some of this beautiful Gamboge right in this one. That leaf, look, that leaf is spectacular. I love that. Love that. Now, I have to say, you know, I took that painting class. God, what did I take that 2 years ago now? 3 years ago? No, it couldn't have been 3 years. Must have been 2 years ago now. I remember I thought it was so terrible. I still do think it was pretty bad. But I do think the one thing that I was forced to do that I'm much better at doing now than I ever was before is accepting that I can paint wet into wet. I'll just throw you guys have seen me. I'm just going to throw the color on there and it's going to do, excuse me, whatever it's going to do. Mary, you're a new subscriber. Mary Scott, I was late to one of your other live videos, the pumpkin on a blue background. Okay. I'm from suburb of Detroit. Hey, neighbor. Yes, I'll bet you it was this pumpkin. I thought your name was familiar. Was it this pumpkin, Mary? Has to have been that pumpkin. It wasn't. That was the one we did before that. I thought your name looked familiar. I thank you for subscribing, by the way. I very much appreciate that. Okay, I've got some awesome leaves going on here. Oh, they're fantastic. So I can tell you what I'm going to do now, right? We've got this motif of this reddish brown with that golden yellow color in there. I'm going to do this leaf the same way, which means we've got to do something a little different with these acorns. So with these acorns, I'm going to have to go brown with those. So this is going to be some sepia on these and maybe a little bit of this burnt umber. So we'll see how that goes. But these are definitely going to have to be a different color than these leaves are. But the leaves are looking fantastic. I think they look great. I think you know, if I'm looking back at this one, actually, if I'm looking back at this one, right, I just need a transition. I'm not even sure I really need it into that main vein there. I love how these go and touch that. Maybe if I just touched it with a little bit of paint to mess that edge up a little bit. I like that. I like that though. What I do need is, it looks smooth. I need a little extra color in a couple of these areas. Maybe we'll come back and we'll do a little extra color on the top. Let's see, Susie, you could add some reddish brown to the acorns. I totally could. We'll see how it looks when we get there. Let's see. I'm stalling a little bit because I want to make sure this is nice and dry before I, potentially put my hand on it. And Kenya says, hello to all the Midwesterners and everyone else. And everyone else. That's cool. I'm still, I'm telling you all, I still listen to those old Art Bell shows. Right, I podcast a lot. And I listen to those, and I love his intro where he says, from the Rocky Mountains in the west to the Appalachian Mountains in the east, out of the Pacific Ocean to the Tahitian Islands, to Alaska in the north, or whatever he says. I love his intro, and I'm still thinking about making one of those for myself. I think it would be a hoot to do. I think it would be a hoot. Oh, maybe there's a lot of brown up here. This is my only problem with doing this. This is not my only problem. I got plenty of problems, but this is one problem I have with doing this is you all know that I like to add texture with different colors, right? Layer and color and layer and color and layer and color. And now I've got this, albeit nice, veining on these leaves. And I'm not sure how to come back and add extra color to it. Susie says, I have no idea who Art Bell is. So, Art Bell has since passed, I don't know, 2016 or 2017 or some such year as that. Art was a late night, overnight talk show host, and he talked about anything that anybody would talk about. Art basically talked with them about. I think he was most famous for talking about aliens with people. He didn't care. Art. This is one thing I really like about his show. And one thing that I have tried to do in my life and in my profession as a computer tech, when I have to go out and meet somebody, what Art did, which was fantastic, was he basically said, I don't care what you're talking about. Makes no difference to me whether it's right or wrong. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to give you all my attention. I'm going to pay attention to what you're doing. I'm going to ask questions. And whether he thought it was completely crackpot or not, he made the guest feel as though he was giving them, 1,000% of his attention, and that everything that they were saying was exactly right. And what was nice in so doing that was it made his interviews really interesting. And so I've taken that and I've tried to do that. But his talk show back in the late 90s, early 2000s was, it was higher rated than most daytime talk shows. And it only aired, it started here on the West Coast at 10 o'clock at night. And then it would run for 4 hours, I guess. So it ended 2 in the morning. But it was pretty outstanding talk show. Yes, aliens, aliens. Yes, really. But he did a lot more than just aliens. He really did. He did some really cool stuff. He had a fascination with astronauts. All right, maybe you're going to say space aliens there too, but had a fascination with astronauts and had a lot of scientists on the show. It was a fun show to listen to, and he had the coolest radio open. 4 hour. It was 4 hours. So it was 4 hours on the week nights, And then he did another show, same topic, different name, on the weekends. It was his show on the weekdays was called Coast to Coast, and on the weekends it was called Dreamland. And on the weekend, it would often be 5 or 6 hours long, and stations would just carry it because he carried ratings. Sherry says, the leaves are awesome. They're getting there. Well, first of all, thank you. I don't want to discount what you said. Thank you. I think they're just going to get better. As we get a little bit more color into them, I want to come back to this first one and do a little bit more. Add some extra color into it. You know, it's funny because I think I've said I always try to pick a topic to paint here that I think I can do easily in between an hour and an hour and a half. I asked my wife tonight. I was like, so I'm painting some acorns and some leaves. Like, I was like, how long do you think it's going to take? And she goes, there's no way you're doing anything in less than 2 hours. I'm like, oh, come on, really? She goes, no, I've seen you paint. She goes, you're just going to start gabbing with everybody. I'm like, yeah, yes, exactly. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes... If there wasn't just gabbing and talking and you know, reading the chats, I would just be out here by myself. This is what makes it exciting and fun to do. I like this. He would have liked talking about UAPs. Yes, yes, unidentified aerial phenomenon. He did. He talked about unidentified aerial phenomenon. He talked about UAPs and USOs, unidentified submerged objects. He talked about it all. He was, as far as radio broadcasting goes, he was awfully good at his job. Let's see, a couple of things. This might have dried up a little too much up here. Let's see if we can scratch something in. Ooh, but I like the dark lines. Liza is here. Liza, hello. It's okay if you're late. We're just glad that you're here. And now I'm going to take an attempt to paint this a little bit, right? I'm going to let this all dry, and I'm going to think about what to do over here. I'm going to get a little bit of color and a little bit of water, and I'm going to have some fun just kind of darkening this up a little bit. I don't want to do it too much. But a little bit. Let's see if we can't make this look super fantastic here. What I'm trying to do, I'm just going to tell you while I'm doing it. Every time I say something like that, I'm like going, I feel like a magician going, I'm going to show you how I do the trick as I do the trick. But there's no real trick to it. It's just, this is how I'm doing it. I'm going to eat some pudding. I'm putting on this color to try, and while I'm doing it, as I'm trying to speak, I'm trying to think how could I put color on here to make it look more round, more dimensional? Where does it need a little bit of extra color to help it look like it's an acorn, and it's got volume to it. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. To make it look as though it's got some real volume to it. And I think a little bit of darkness on the one side and right up underneath that, the cap. And I think it's getting there. I think it's getting there. Now, I don't have to do it all in one shot here. And I think I saw... Oh, yes. Yeah, I think... Ooh, look at that. Looks good. I think I saw Kenya had a question. Kenya, I'm enjoying watching your layering technique in real time. I have trouble with layering because I'm impatient and want to use other colors all at once. Yeah. So I will be happy to tell you what I know about that, which is not a lot. It's tough, right? This isn't even, what I'm doing here isn't even a whole lot of layering per se. This is, if I get in the mood and I get a little crazy, I will do, I don't know, 10 or 20 layers on something. I get you. I feel you. It's a hard thing to do, to say, I want to jump from the beginning to the end in one step. And I don't want to have to wait a half an hour in the middle for paint to dry and for, whatever else to happen, right? And then to add another layer and to put some paint on and to add another layer, let it dry and then add another layer, put some paint on and add another layer. It's tough. It is tough. There is no doubt about that. So when I started, I often did the same thing as you, or probably did the same thing as you. Was not good at being patient, much like now, right? I shouldn't really be going back in over top of this wet paint with this darker sepia tone, right? I'm going a darker brown over this lighter brown. I'm really kind of trying to skip one step of letting everything dry. Done it for a while, and hopefully I can do this without screwing too much up. There's a lot of knowing the moisture in your brush and how much you can put on at any one time before you're going to start creating back runs and whatnot. But it's tough. It's very tough. The thing that really changed everything for me, and you can try this exercise, it was kind of cool to do and kind of cool to see the result, is I painted, I don't have it here. If I had it here, I would grab it and show it to you. I painted in orange. Much like this, I took an orange, it's been peeled, so you had the orange itself and peel coming off of it. And I kind of challenged myself to see how many layers it would take for me to paint this orange. And for each layer I put on, I put a little mark, right? If I had a piece of paper here. Before I started a layer, I just went like this. Boop. That's what my layer is going to be. Or, or whatever the intensity of that layer is. There you go. That was going to be one layer. And then that's the next layer, and that's the next layer, and that's the next layer. And I challenged myself to see how many layers it would take for me to paint this orange. And I was thinking, wow, I could do it in 5 or 6 layers. And I was purposely trying to go very light on the layers. Well, right, I won't keep you in suspense. I painted an orange with some rind coming off of it. That's to be expected. But what ended up being pretty cool was I would paint a layer, mark it down, and then paint the next layer and mark it down. And yes, there was some waiting in between layers. But when I was done with it, I had 18, 20 different layers, something like that. And I had a painting that I hadn't ever done before, meaning it was vibrant. It was not open. It was transparent in many ways. It had light that shined through it. It was really a cool piece. And I had gone from, so I think I told this story before. I used to watch a lot of YouTube painters and do a lot of things. And I watched this British guy once, and he was like, well, if it ever takes you more than 3 layers to do your watercolor painting, you're doing it wrong. And for whatever reason, for me, that kind of stuck. And so I tried to do all my painting in 3 layers. I still kind of think the guy was right, to be honest with you. But I don't do that anymore because I like the way things look with many more layers. And that experiment, that little trying to do things, kind of changed the way I look at watercolor painting. And so now I don't necessarily try to get things done in 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layers. I'm much more likely to do things in 10 layers and take a day or 2 break in between, because I can see that at this point, because I've done it before, I can see that the end of it, what I'm going to get out of it is going to look so much cooler. In fact, if you give me a second, if you'll indulge me for just a moment. I think everybody, all the regulars have seen this, but please indulge me for a moment. And let me get a couple of birds that I've painted recently. You guys have all seen them, but I happen to have them here and not at my work, hanging on my wall. Well, at least I hope they're here. Maybe they're here. Okay. Hang on one more second. I can't find him. Well, the last time I ever... Okay. Whoa. Okay, here you go. This is what happens sometimes when you do a live demonstration. I've got to find it. There's one that I'm working on. Don't know. Oh, excuse me. So this is one that I'm working on. And at first glance, you can say, well, this probably shouldn't have taken too long. You just put some color on here and be done with it. But I will bet you, right, this is not much bigger than that picture. Slightly larger, same width. I will bet you that this has... I'll bet you this has got 6 or 7 different layers on this right now. And if I put in some finishing details, it's going to pop right out of here. I mean, I've probably got 6 or 7 more layers that are going to go on here to get this done. But it's got a transparency, a vibrancy to it that I think is really kind of cool. And you can't get that with a quick kind of a pow, 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 get it done, get it done, get it done. Something that only you can do by taking a long time. Okay, wow. So that was way up here. Let me run back my chat here a little bit. Let's see. I want you all to know that YouTube threatened to ban me. I don't know exactly what. So if I can't get any. Wow. That's surprising. Aliz, I hope you get that straightened around. Mary Scott, so you paint on dry paper. Seems like that makes for better control. I think I could manage that as opposed to wet on wet. So I think that I do a little bit of both wet on wet and wet on dry. For me, the bigger the area, the earlier in the painting, I do more wet on wet. As we get towards the end, I do more wet on dry. And if I have to blend out, I'm happy to do that. But to start with, I start with more wet on wet, where you need a little bit less control and you want the color to do what the color is going to do a little bit more. The yellow undertone is really helping the sepia on these, Susie says. I hope that's what you meant to. Tracy says, has YouTube been notifying you all when I go live? So, Tracy, you might have to go into wherever you're at down in the corner. There should be a little gear and set the notifications. I know that that has been reset on some accounts. I've seen that before. Sherry, I've been surrounded by oak leaves and acorns for weeks, so I've been painting them. Good. YouTube is a little fickle. All right, good. I'm glad that people are getting some notifications. Yeah, normally the ding helps remind me. I get dings too from YouTube, and it does help. Let's see. And Liza says, Tracy, your live was very good. See, I was there. Liza was there too. It was really nice. Oh, and Kenya says, I'm going to try that exercise. Good. Kenya, honest to God, you will come away with a new appreciation for layering. Honestly, when I did it, I was shocked at the difference in how your painting goes. But you do have to force yourself to not put in heavy layers. And don't use this as an example. If I were doing this painting, this is a little different than I would normally do, right? If I were doing this painting by myself on a Saturday afternoon, or some such thing as that, right? Maybe Sunday afternoon, I have a football game on the TV, or I'm listening to a podcast, and I'm just here doing my own thing. It would probably take me 2 hours just to do these leaves. Honestly, it might take me more than that. Just because I want to get that really light feel in there. Here, slightly different because I want to get something done and have something that's cool to show, and maybe is, I don't know, 90%, 95% of what I would do. So, slightly different. Let's do these ones up that way. This one goes up that way. I'm gonna put some of these. Have to get these in while it's wet. If you don't get these in, you don't get the. I'm holding it up here so you can see it in the small screen. If I put it down here, if you don't get these in when it's wet, you don't get those cool lines like that. Muy importante. I've learned the hard way. I think that's what that means in Spanish. Is I learned that the hard way. Although it could mean something else. My Spanish is terrible. All right. let's see, that's why I work on more than one painting at a time. So you have to, okay, Susie's cool. So great minds think alike. I don't know if you saw the whole stack of papers that I pulled up when I was going through to try and find that bird head. I've, at any point in time, the paintings I'm actively working on, I've got between, I would say 3 and 8 paintings that I'm working on. I mean, it's not just because I'm allowing for some drying time. I'm allowing for some reflection time in there too, right? Oh, do I really want to do this on this painting? I'm not sure if I want to do this. Let me set this aside. I'll pick up something else. I'll come back to that, and we'll see what it looks like in, you know, another day or some such thing as that. And that's totally acceptable. So if you don't have that reflection time, sometimes it gets hard to see the forest for the trees, or the acorns for the trees, as the case may be. All right, so cool. We're motoring along here. I'm going to make these caps, and then I want to take a look at adding a little bit more depth to some of these. I love the colors. I don't want to change the colors. I just want to enhance it a little bit. So I have an idea or two, and I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm going to try not to say too much. I want these caps to be a little bit darker than that acorn. Just a little bit purer of this sepia. And yes, I realize I have a fascination with this sepia color. I don't know what it is, but I do have a bit of fascination with it. Give me some of this lighter color in here. I think when this dries up, that cap's going to look nice. It's going to have this lighter color up here towards the middle, and darker, darker, darker as it goes towards the edge. I think that's going to look quite nice. Let me round this out. Trying to be fairly precise. Ooh, that looks nice. And that little, I don't know what this is called. I guess this is the acorn stem up here. Is that what you call this? That little knob on the top. Oh, there we go. I'm looking at that. That's kind of cute, right? I like that. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's see. What else can we talk about today? What else? Let's talk one of my other favorite topics other than watercolors. This is what happens when you guys stop chatting and there's nothing for me to read. You give me opportunity to talk about whatever I want to talk about. So I am shocked and surprised that one of my chickens is still laying eggs. And she is so cute. Little Dahlia. All the other girls look terrible. They're well into their molt, and they've lost half their feathers, and their color is all over the place, and they're just a mess. The whole backyard is full of feathers. The whole coop is full of feathers. And then there's Dahlia, who is unaffected by the change in weather, by the change in everything else. She is still laying 1 egg a day. Bless her heart. I will say it is nice to let the girls out in the morning, and she comes bounding out. She's the first one out in the morning to greet me, cooing away with her cute little chicken sounds and just talking up a storm like it's nobody's business, saying good morning to me. So nice. So nice. And if I haven't mentioned Dahlia much before, I think I've mentioned her before. She is a strange breed of chicken. And that's one of the reasons I got her. She is what's called a mystic onyx. If anybody wants to look that up, a mystic onyx, right? A mystic onyx. And she is part, let me see if I get this right. She is part silky and part something else. What is the else? I'm not sure what the else is. But one of the weird features of the mystic onyx, other than being completely adorable and super nice-ish. In fact, I got her specifically because she was part silky, and silkies are renowned for being friendly, gregarious chickens. But one of the other things silkies are known for are for having, why do I have so much paint on here? Are for having 6 toes, and Dahlia has 6 toes, and it does look a little weird from time to time to look down and see an extra toe hanging off the side. But mystic onyxes are America's attempt to make an Ian tsunami bird, meaning she is all black. There's no other color on her. Her feet are black, her feathers are black, her comb, her wattles are black, her beak is black, and her eyes are black. No other colors on her. And she's beautiful. And she's nice. which is even better. So I can't say enough about her. Plus, like I said, she's still laying eggs, which is unbelievable. Pumpkin, Betty, they were like, nah, we're done. Nothing. We're out of here. Here's some feathers. Figure it out for yourself. Blueberry. Well, Blueberry doesn't know any better. I really think Blueberry had no idea what molting was. I think it was a complete shock to her. She went from being this super gregarious little chicken to not wanting anybody to touch her, not being wanted to be held, which I get because I think it's sometimes painful for them to have their feathers growing out to be growing new feathers in. So I totally get that. Just painting maybe a little hint of a shadow line on here. Something like that. I think Betty and Pumpkin are just, they're like, yeah, I've been through this before. Not really gonna worry about this too much. Just let me get up. Where's the food dish? Just let me know. What time are you gonna come and let me out of the coop? Can you, let's see. The other birds, Blue is a blue Maroon chicken, and she's beautiful in her own way. She's got gray-blue feathers. Pumpkin is a black Australorp. Probably my favorite chicken. Love Pumpkin. She's a handful for sure. Blueberry's turning into quite a handful too, but and then Betty is a barred rock. I love Betty. Looks like a classic backyard chicken that you would think of, like somebody's grandma would have. That vein shadow adds some dimension. It does add a little bit of dimension. So does some of the shadowing up here. Okay, now I'm going to try up here. I want to see if I can do this, and I might. I don't know. I don't think I will, but I might screw this whole thing up. So hang with me. If I come in here and I do this, this is where the fun starts, right here, right? Let me soften this side just so. I'm going to take this out even further. That should have been a bit yellower, but we'll figure it out. Just want to do something that's going to add a little bit here to it. Come on. A little bit more intense in here. This is why I'm not exactly sure this is going to work, but I'm sure if it's not going to work, this is the leaf I want it to not work on. It's a bit of experimentation. Live experimentation. Everybody come and watch Michael screw his picture up. Oh, actually, that's okay. Look. Oh, I like it. Okay. I can live with that. And so if I darken this whole bit down here now, right, I just like the variability of that. I don't like that it's all flat and all smooth. I want a little bit of something on here. Right, if I have to make the color a bit more intense here, and a bit less intense somewhere else, I'm good with that. Sherry, I have to leave for a few minutes. Be right back. Okay, cool. We'll be here when you get back. Provided your few minutes isn't like 2 hours. I can't totally make that promise, but I can mostly make that promise. Okay, cool. So, okay, I can live with this. Look. So to me now what this looks like is maybe there's a little curvature on that leaf, right? There's a little something going on that one to make it a little less sheet of paper-ish. So, the question is, can we replicate that on this other stuff? And the answer is going to be a definite resounding maybe. A resounding, there's a chance. Let's just blend this out real smooth, and we'll come back up here. And if I didn't leave this to dry too long, I just think this is going to give it a little bit more life, a little bit more oomph to this painting for what we've done with it, right? I do this with the guys I work with too. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I like this. I'm glad we've done this. We've done a good job with this. Can we do a little bit more with it? What else can we do to make this just something a little extra? And then my team goes, well, you could do all of this yourself. Leave me out of it. I've got all this stuff to do. No. You're totally missing the point. Whoa. Plus, this is where I get to make a nice gradient right in here. Darker here, a little lighter there, darker there, a little lighter here. I'm all about that. I love that. Sheet of paper-ish new art term. Okay, so Susie says, what yellow did you use as a base color? Yellow ochre? Yes-ish. So there was a bit of yellow ochre in it. There's a little bit of Hansa Yellow in it. And these two were really what's in the core here, the center of it. There's probably more yellow ochre than anything. And then as we moved out, we've got some Gamboge. Some Azo Orange. There's a little Gamboge in there too. Some Azo Orange, and then my Maroon Perylene out here. So, a couple of these yellows. This dark red out here, which I would hope would lighten up and orange up, and I think it really did quite nicely. That cap is a little dark, but that's okay. Let's see. I'm gonna make this whole thing right in through here. A bit darker, a bit more darker. Maybe there's a bit of a bend right in here. This is the best, easiest way for us to do this bend. This also, if you're keeping track at home, is a nice, easy way for us to clean up any edges that didn't quite turn out the way we wanted them to turn out. It's a fabulous opportunity to do that. And so now we've got a little bit more intense color here. Maybe that wasn't quite as much color as I had hoped. And I think I'm going to sneeze again. Excuse me. And I'm going to put maybe a little bit more here. All right, maybe this curls down a little bit here or something. There's just a little pocket of darkness here. A pocket of darkness. Well, let's make it sound like it's some kind of horror movie or something. There's a pocket of darkness here. You guys have seen me just kind of put dark around the outside of a whole bunch of things. Not quite what I'm trying to do here, but not too far off. Right? If you put a little dark here, add a little intensity to some of this color, it should make it look like maybe that part of it's curled a little bit. Maybe it's not exactly flat. There's a little some kind of oomph to it. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not trying to reinvent this leaf or make it look too much like anything it's not. But I do want to have a little something on here. There you go. This whole end maybe curls down a little bit. Look at that. Okay. Oh, look. Okay. Now, look, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting some interest on these leaves. I'm definitely liking that more. Oh, the question is, do I want to come back and do more here? This was, as I think about this, this was supposed to be an acorn painting. This was not going to be a leaf painting. I was going to do leaves later. I think I'm doing leaves now. Amberwig says, what brushes am I using? That is a great question. And the answer is, this is, are you ready? Are you ready for this? This is a golden maple quill mop brush. And it just so happens, actually, this is kind of a nice brush. Right? Is this the best brush you're ever going to buy? In reality, no, it's not the best brush you're ever going to buy, but it is a nice brush. It's a synthetic squirrel hair brush, and it will stand up a bit to some punishment. Hasn't yet started to hook and curl over the end like some synthetic brushes do. And I've been using this for a couple of weeks. Golden Maple sent me these to try in a set, a 2, 4, and a 6. And I quite like them. I'm going to continue to use them for a while. And if you like these and you want to give these a try for yourself, they are pretty inexpensive. And down below in the description, down there, it should be down there. Pretty sure it's down there. If it's not down there, let me know and I'll get it for you. There is a link to how you can get these, and I think there's a code. It's Michael 3 or some such thing as that. That will get you a little discount on the brushes, should you want to order them. And that's it. They really are. They're a nice little brush. I have no problem with them. They do have some nice snap to them. They hold a lot of water, like many synthetic squirrel brushes do. Quite a bit of water. I've got several synthetic squirrel brushes, and I've got several real squirrel brushes too. And I like these quite a bit. These are probably, the feel of these is probably better than About half of the other brushes I have. You know, nice little brush. I think that set that is linked in there is $20, $25 with a 10% off or something. Okay. All right, now, okay, so we got a little bit of something going on here with our leaf. Looking better. I like these. I like this. Amber, thanks for Amber Wing. Amber, thank you for asking the question. Thank you for joining the show. Love having new people on here for sure. I don't have the memory I used to, but I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. Like I said, it's great to have you here. Love seeing new people and talking to new people. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Okay, I don't want to futz around too much with these. I think if I start futzing around too much, probably I'm gonna start getting them too dark, and I'm gonna have to pull color off, and that's a whole different thing. And I am happy to see that I didn't ruin my veining here, though. That's nice to see. I'm gonna paint maybe just a little bit more brown on here. Let's brown that up a little bit. Maybe this one got a little bit of this brown too. Maybe this whole thing curls under that way. Don't know. Yeah, the more color I just keep layering on here, the better these are starting to look. I could continue to do this for quite a while. Turn on the radio and just start to do this for a little while. Do. You all wouldn't mind. You'd hang out with me, wouldn't you? Oh, it's looking so good. Starting. It's getting there. Maybe it's not starting, but it's definitely getting better. How's that? Some dark ends on here. To me, this is the fun part of your painting. Right? You get to do all these cool little things at the end that really get to kick your painting up to the next notch, right? This large field that you've painted, that's cool. That's really nice. But these last little bits that you're going to put on are the ones that are going to take your painting from nice to where your friends are going to look at it and go, whoa, when did you get so good at that? They're going to take a look and go, can you do that for me? I would love to have something like that in my office, or I would love to have something like that in my house. Can you paint me one of those? And then you got the task of either painting one for somebody or giving them the one you got. I try to take the tact that I could always paint it again. I painted it once. I could always paint it again, right? I should be able to do it. Electric vinyl suit, man. I don't know who you are, but I love the name. Thank you. Love the enthusiasm. Let's put a little red in this. Love the enthusiasm. And thank you to you for stepping forward and joining the live stream too. Love to see that. Like I said, I've said it plenty of times. This is what makes doing this fun, right? This is the interaction, being able to talk to everybody is what really makes this fun. If it weren't for this interaction, right? I could just sit out here, schedule some time and sit out here in the studio and do this on my own, turn the radio on, but the interaction is so much more fun. This makes it so much more enjoyable. And so I want to thank everybody for that, first of all. All right, I think I'm just playing at this point. I can continue to play like that. Wow, I look up. It's so funny. I look up there, and I look here, and sometimes they look different, and sometimes I look and see different things. I think it looks great. Liza says, Michael, this painting is one of my favorites. Wow, thank you. Thanks, sincerely. All right, now I've got to do a little bit more on these acorns. I want to warm them up a little bit. So I'm going to use a mixture of my sometimes you give me a give me a second. It's a mix of my sepia and burnt umber. I want to make sure I've got some color on these, and I want to make sure that my color intensity, my saturation, if you will, somewhat matches the leaves now that I have. And I've just dropped a bit of water on there. Let me get that off before that does anything bad. And so I think when we add this little bit of warm brown on here, it's going to help to bring these to life a little bit more. And no, maybe this isn't the exact color of acorns, and that's okay. Our leaves probably aren't the exact color of leaves, and that's okay. I would bet you that 99.9% of the people, when they look at this painting, they're not going to go, oh, that color is off of the acorn. They really don't get that dark. They only get to, whatever color. Oof. People are going to look at it and they're going to go, wow, I love the intensity of color on this. I love the vibrancy that those leaves have. I love the shading on these acorns. And just as a personal note, I think I've caught myself saying about a dozen times tonight, and I'm going to try to stop that. That's a thing for me, and I think I've gotten a lot better at it, and I think I've regressed a little bit. So I know that sometimes when you're listening to people speak, especially if they are not professional speakers, you pick up on lots of uhs and ums, and because I do this, I get a little bit of flack I just did it again. I get a little flack from my coworkers, which is fine, which I'm happy to take. But I do recognize I'm doing it from sometimes, so I want to try to stop that. Let's see, Natalie, pray tell, what's the dog's? Whoa. Who's Sabrina is here, says I love the painting. Hello from Pakistan. Holy cow. That literally is half a world away. Wow, welcome. I don't have any idea what time it is there. It's early morning or late night or midday. Wow. Natalie says, funny story. I was on a little live, and one day I saw a handle that was my sister's dog's name. I texted her, and sure enough, it was my sister in New York. Wow. Hey, I have a story. This is fantastic. Wow, what a community. Sepia says, love from you, right back at you. And Eliza says, I want to feed those acorns to your squirrels. Good, good, good. All right, here's my story. This is an amazing story. At least I think so. So I've told the story of how my wife is the real artist in the family before. I believe I've said that. And I stand by that, right? She went to art school. I went to YouTube. She paid for her own school by selling her artwork. Was able to do it because she's very good at her artwork. Well, when we moved to the central coast of California here, we originally opened a gift shop here in my little town. We had lots of tourists who come, and some tourists who like gifty, artsy things, and some that were willing to buy some of them. What was I going to say? So my wife put a whole bunch of her art up for sale at our gift shop. And I think I'm not wrong in saying that all of it sold. I could be wrong, but I think all of it that was for sale sold. She did have some that was not for sale there. Well, my wife just happened to go to a thrift store, one of her favorite thrift stores in town. She dropped my son off at school. He's 17, soon to be 17, and he's taking classes at the community college, and she dropped him off there in the thrift store, School of YouTube. The thrift store happens to be behind the community college here. So she dropped him off and went back to the thrift store, which she does quite a bit, and which is totally fine. She finds some really interesting things there. She walked in and looked on the wall, went up to the woman at the register and went, "That's my painting." And the woman is, something like, "Yeah, well, it could be yours for however much money." And my wife was like, No. I painted that. She goes, "I sold that 15 years ago." Actually, it was probably more than 15 years now. She goes, "I sold that." So my wife repurchased her own painting that she sold from our store. Like I said, I think we closed that store 17 years ago. Something like that. So long ago she repurchased it. So we now have one of her original paintings back in our house, which I think is just a fantastic little story. Okay, and yes, I'm stalling again, trying to decide if I want to put a drop shadow on anything. What do you think? Should I put a drop shadow on some of this, or should I leave it the way it is? Aliz says, "Cool." Liza says, "Wow." It's a really interesting kind of a story. I would never have thought that her painting, one of her paintings that she sold that long ago, would ever come back to us. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Can your wife come to one of our live streams? I don't think. She might be listening in, but I don't think she'll ever pop on. Drop shadow, drop shadow, drop shadow. No, I hate drop shadows. Okay, drop shadow. I think you're right. I think it needs a drop shadow. It needs a little something, doesn't it? I'm just going to use neutral tint for this because maybe I'll put a little bit of this sepia in just to warm it up a little bit. Neutral tint can be a little bit cold, and I'm kind of mixing it in a tray where there's some blue, so it could get a little cold. I think that's what I'm going to do. That's the color I'm going to use for my drop shadow. Drop shadow. Why drop shadow? Get my wife. I'm trying to convince my kids to come on here with me. I think it'd be fun to have them on here. Okay, so I need to decide. Let's see, drop shadow. How high is this? Right about there. Oh, that far. Something like this. Let's see. It comes down this way. Let's hope this works. Drop shadow. Drop shadow. Sounds like the name of a painting superhero or something, doesn't it? I'm the drop shadow. Wow. I don't know, something like that. Drop shadow. Oh. All right, maybe it's getting a little late at night. Getting a little punchy. Liza, you know what a drop shadow is. It's just the shadow that you see, like it drops off of whatever you're looking at. Oops, that one might not be right. Nobody will ever know. Well, there's definitely. Oh, actually, wow! I look at it. It actually does look like it's kind of standing apart, doesn't it? Wow, that's. Should do this more often. I should do this more often. I guess it doesn't really have to be perfect, does it? It doesn't really even have to be even. If it's not an even shadow, it just means that the leaf isn't the same distance away from whatever we're painting it on, whatever it's sitting on, right? That's all. That actually so it's pretty amazing how that works. It actually does look like there's a shadow there and it's doing something. That's pretty, a little bit, and all of a sudden it just popped right off the page. Wow. Spinal Tap could be a band. So could Drop Shadow. Drop Shadow is a rock band. I put that on. I'm shocked. I think the drop shadow looks fantastic. I am going to sign this right, I don't know, right about here. There we go. And I'm going to call this one done. Having put on my drop shadow. And we're going to talk about a few things. I love these dark bits that got added in late. Oh, I love these. I think the leaves had some great color to them. I love the dark spot here. I love the dark spot here. I think maybe I could have blended this out a little bit better. But the more I paint, the more I abhor a flat layer of things. And so when I see this, and when I see these dark areas, my heart just goes, yes. I think those made it look fantastic. I like the dark area here. If I was gonna come back and do it, now that I've got my shadow on here, I could put a little darker area up here, a little darker area down here. I'm not convinced you need it. I think at first glance, you look at it, you know what it is. You see there's the shadow there. You see the shading on the acorns themselves, and you forget all about the fact that maybe there's not exactly the proper shadowing on here. Totally fine. I will admit, you all know I hate shadows. I hate painting shadows, but even I can admit, as soon as that shadow got put on there, the whole painting went and just popped an inch off of the page. It now looks almost like it's 3D. Whose idea was that? Who told me I should do that? Sudike, Eliza, Susie, somebody. I don't know. It's your fault. It's so good. A fantastic suggestion. I actually this acorn here. I really like this acorn here. I know the top got a little dark. I can live with that. I think that dark top fits better with this acorn, which looks to me round and shiny and really cool. I think if these ones had dark tops on them, they would look even better than they do now. I like the composition. I like the 3 and the 5. Is this 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. I was going to say, I thought I drew 5. If I could count. Couple things that maybe I don't like quite as much. I think my colors got a little muddied in. I love that the colors are bright, but I think they got a little muddied in here. I think if I do it again, it didn't break out of my shadow box or anything. I think if I were doing it again, I would start the whole thing a little differently and do it a bit different, but that's okay. It's okay. It's all right. I think it looks great the way it is. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. So before I go, I'm going to ask you to do one thing, which is everybody, if you haven't done so yet, down here, somewhere, I don't know, hit the like button if you would please. That will help me boost up my ratings a little bit. I would greatly appreciate that. All of the new people. Nessa is here. Nessa, I didn't say hello. Nessa, hello. I'm about to say goodbye. Hello. I'm sorry I missed it. I just looked up and saw your name up there. Hello. Sepia, Nessa, everybody else, Mary, anybody else who's new, thank you so much for coming and joining in. I love that you guys do that. I have a lot of likes. I am here every Wednesday. I'll be back next Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. If you want to get the notification where I think it's down on that side, hit the subscribe button, hit that little wheel, tell them you want to get the notifications, turn the notifications on. I can't even speak. We'll be back next week. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to paint. It will be something fall themed again. And then I'm not even sure what our challenge is for November. Did we set a challenge? In 2 weeks, whatever our challenge is, we're going to be painting. I'm going to be painting our challenge painting. I think it's going to be fantastic, whatever it is. Ken, you didn't realize it was so late. I'm glad you found this group too. Until next week, I hope you all have a great rest of your evening or a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And until next time, thank you all for joining me. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.